women to talk with us. And for those of us joining online, thank you so much for being here virtually. First, before I get started with introductions with everybody, I wanted to invite up Brooke Lenson from Executive Education here to talk very briefly about the Women in Leadership certificate that they have.
Awesome. Thanks, Sheena. I won't take too much of your time because I'm very anxious to hear from this incredible panel. But my name's Brooke Lenson. I work for Executive Education at the University of Utah. We utilize the faculty that teach at the David Eccles School of Business to do certificate-based programs for working professionals. And so one of our flagship programs is our Women in Leadership Certificate Program. That we offer twice a year, and we actually have had so much success with this program that we're doing a Women in Leadership Program Part 2, and Dean Hayes is actually going to be teaching that program as well. So it is taught by amazing faculty at the David Eccles School of Business. What I love about this program is, without a doubt, I always hear women talk about the promotions they've received, the additional compensation, the additional support they've received from their bosses, or the job shifts that they've done. So it's an absolutely incredible program if you are a working professional looking to upskill in your career, maybe not ready to get a master's degree, or you're looking for something post your master's degree. Feel free to talk to me after the program. I have some white folders that have some information about the program as well, but I'll turn the time back over to Sheena so we can get started with this incredible event. Thank you.
All right. Well, it is my great pleasure to introduce Dean Rachel Hayes, who is, as we all know, the first woman dean of the David Eccles School of Business, which I think is a thrilling time. Yay. So super excited. So it's only 2022, y'all. It only took that long. Don't worry. So, Dr. Rachel Hayes is, of course, our dean, and she is a professor in accounting, and she received her MBA from the University of Colorado and a PhD from Stanford University's Graduate School of Business. She has been a faculty member at the University of Utah since 2005 and has served in numerous roles in her department and college, including the George S. and Dolores Doré Eccles Presidential Chair in Financial Reporting and Associate Dean of Faculty and Research. In addition to Rachel's impressive accomplishments and work history, she's also an advocate and supporter for women and their advancement into leadership roles. We at the Eccles School are super excited to have her as our leader, and we are so looking forward to the direction that she takes the school in, and I know that the future is going to be very bright under her. So with that, Rachel, why don't you go ahead and take it away.
Hello?
Oh, does that work?
All right, thank you, Sheena, both for the introduction and for organizing this. What I'd like to do first is introduce you to the three women that we have on our panel. And I'm going to start with Sheridan because she is on my page first. So Sheridan Mordew, and is that how you pronounce your name? She is the owner of Hip and Humble, which is a women's lifestyle boutique that she began with her sister 23 years ago, shortly after completing her studies at the University of Utah. Hip and Humble is known as the go-to gift shop, showcasing a fun and color-driven collection of fashion, home accessories, and gifts. Sheridan has grown her store to 5 locations, including premier spaces at 9th and 9th and the Salt Lake City Airport. Recently, she negotiated a North American licensing expansion of her brand for stores in all major airports throughout the U.S., which is really amazing, and I had no idea. Beginning this year, you'll find Hip and Humble at Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood International, and Houston International Airport. Throughout her 23 years of business, she's become passionate about the economic impact of local independent businesses and women-based issues. You can find her engaged in many city and statewide organizations, supporting, guiding, and lobbying for small businesses and gender equity. Some of her service experience includes co-chair of Local First Utah, board chair of 9th and 9th Business District, board member of Utah Independent Business Coalition and Craft Lake City, committee member of Visit Salt Lake, and member of Utah Women's Forum, and a founding member of Women Who Succeed. So welcome, Sheridan. All right, and I'm going to skip to Beatrix Washington because that's next on my sheet. Beatrix is an executive vice president and general counsel and corporate secretary at O.C. Tanner Company. O.C. Tanner develops strategic employee recognition and reward solutions that help Fortune 1000 companies develop and improve their corporate culture. As O.C. Tanner's general counsel, Bea leads the legal, contracts, information security, and internal audit teams. She provides creative and practical solutions to the senior executive team regarding compliance, security, intellectual property, M&A activities, and employment matters. Beatrix previously served as Senior Vice President, General Counsel, and Corporate Secretary of LifeVantage Corporation, where she advised the company's board of directors and senior executive team on governance and strategic objectives, influencing business paths and tactical decisions. Prior to serving as LifeVantage's General Counsel, she was the Associate General Counsel and Corporate Counsel. She's also held various legal and contract management roles for Energy Solutions, GKN Aerospace, and ARINC Engineering Service. Bea serves on the board of Ballet West, the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under the Law, Salt Lake Community College Foundation, and the Waterford School. Welcome, Bea. All right, and finally, we're also pleased to welcome Catherine Wong. She is the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President of Engineering at Domo. Catherine brings extensive technology and operational management experience to Domo's leadership team, and she's led the development of Domo's award-winning platform. Her customer-centric approach continues to propel Domo's ability to grow at rapid speed and scale. Prior to Domo, Catherine held key global leadership roles at Adobe and Omniture in areas ranging across product, M&A, and engineering. Over the course of her career, Catherine's been awarded patents in data segmentation, data visualization, and SaaS data collection. She currently serves on the board of directors for Amplitude and the Women Tech Council. She has previously served on the advisory board for the College of Engineering at the University of Utah and the College of Engineering at Utah State University. She's been recognized as Woman of the Year in 2018 and CXO of the Year in 2019 by Utah Business Magazine, and in 2020 she was named one of the 50 most powerful women in technology. So, welcome, Catherine. Okay, so I'm going to start with a bit of a background question, and so I'd like to have each of you tell us a bit about your journey into the role that you are that you currently find yourself, and talk a little bit maybe about the challenges that you encountered along the way. And I'll start with you, Bea.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I have to say, I just want to make the comment, this is the most diverse panel I've ever been on. And so, kudos to the University of Utah. Having a tech background and all of that, I mean, it's just the most diverse panel I've ever been on. So my journey is a little bit different. I went to college, like all of you, and I majored in political science. And so what do you do with that? You go to law school. So I worked a little bit in city government in St. Louis, and then I went to law school. But I didn't necessarily want to practice in the traditional sense, and most attorneys who I knew, including my older brother, were litigators or they worked in government, and so I kind of had to figure it out. And so I always tell people this, and I try to be transparent because I don't want you to feel like if you don't know if you're on the right path, that it's okay, just keep going. So go to law school, spend a lot of time meeting with a lot of professors. When people came to speak at my university, I went to DePaul College of Law in Chicago. I would just connect with them and have conversations like, what can I do with this degree that I'm pursuing and going into a lot of debt for, that I'm not entirely sure that this is the right career field for me. And I was very fortunate to meet a number of people who tried to guide me in ways that I could use my law degree. And this is the importance of talking to random people that come to your university. One of them was President Obama, who was then a state senator, who explained to me, you can use your law degree to go into corporate law, which is what I did. And even that wasn't a traditional path for most lawyers. Unlike most attorneys who have a role as general counsel, I've never practiced at a firm. I've only been in corporate environments. So a little bit unusual. I rarely hire someone who has not been through a law firm. So a little bit hypocritical of myself, but there is amount of training that you get in a firm that it's difficult to get if you just start in the corporate environment. And it's painful to do so because you're playing catch up for a number of years earlier in your career to get to that point. But that's what I did. I just took opportunities as they came to me. Coming out of law school, a large public relations firm hired me to be the go-between between the PR team and the legal teams for their clients. So crisis communication is probably how that's categorized now, or litigation communication. So I did that, and then life happens. I did that for a little bit, and my father had a major stroke. My mother, who was caregiving for my grandmother who had really advanced Alzheimer's, was completely spent at the time. I worried about her health as much as his. So I stopped working and helped take care of him for over a year as he went through rehab. And then I started working again, but it was 2002. For those of you old enough to remember the economy then, there were not a lot of opportunities. So I took the only thing that was available to me, which was a contract manager position. So not practicing the traditional sense for a large aerospace company, which is Aerospace, which is a division of Rockwell Collins. So I worked in that role for a few years, and then I moved on to another aerospace company. And then I met a cute boy, which a lot of your stories will will take you there. And he lived in Utah, so I moved here. The company that I worked for was a direct competitor to ATK, and we continually bid on a lot of the same projects. So that took me to, I'll potentially go work for ATK, started having conversations on the other side of the table while still living in Missouri. Came here again, the economy. In 2007 was one where ATK actually started downsizing. So thankfully, all of my federal contract management experience made me interesting to energy solutions. And just really opportunity popping up. Again, would I have said, yes, I want to work for a nuclear service company and that's why I'm going to law school? No, but I took that opportunity, really learned a lot about the nuclear service industry, but also about the inner workings of a corporate legal department, and it happened to be at a public company, so win-win. So I learned all sorts of things from employment law to SEC, securities law. Took that, went to LifeVantage after I had my daughter, which is another detour that some of you might find in your career. I thought I was taking a step back. I didn't necessarily want to not work. I worked too hard to get to law school, and as I told you, kind of taught myself how to be a lawyer, not having gone to a firm. So went to LifeVantage, change after change after change, found myself being general counsel. So not the step back I was looking for, but I did have a period of breathing room when I first started. That was just what I needed in my career. Went there, got a call from a mentor that I had worked with before, who had been one of the general counsels that I worked for at Energy Solutions, saying, O.C. Tanner had an opportunity, I think you're a good fit. And a month later, I was. So that's kind of how things moved along for me. So the one thing I want you all to have a takeaway from me is just try things and don't expect everything to be a straight line in your career. There are lots of zigzags that'll still make it fun.
Turn this on. Oh, there you go. So my story, I'm the daughter of immigrants, so I was told there were 3 options for what I could be. When I went to college, I could either choose doctor, lawyer, or engineer. That would be acceptable. I came back with computer science, which I stumbled on because a roommate of mine was taking a computer science class, and I was like, all right, sure, I'll take it. And I really loved it. It actually turned out to be really fun, and I enjoyed solving the puzzles, so that's what I wound up getting my degree in. My parents were like, that's acceptable, that is fine. So I went into that field, honestly, very similarly, I think not knowing what the end state was going to be. And I would say, I agree that so much of life, in my experience, has been taking the opportunities as they come. It's a jungle gym. I expected to kind of have that ladder where you just go, okay, what next rung, next row. But the reality is it didn't feel like that for me, and I think that's a beautiful thing because we discover more about ourselves throughout our lives. We change. What matters to us changes. What matters to you at 20 is going to be different at 25, 30, 35, 40. And so that flexibility and that mindset, I think, is really important. So I wore every hat possible because I graduated at exactly the wrong time. I graduated in 2000, probably before most of you were born, which is when the dot-com crash occurred. So it was really dark times, and then 9/11 hit. Like, it was just, I would say, really hard for a lot of us who had just graduated from college. We'd just worked so hard to get these degrees, and then we were thinking, what is happening? Like, the world is falling apart. But I was able to find and stay with a small company that was really nimble. They were really agile. They let me try a lot of different things, and that's what I wanted. So I wore every hat that you can wear in product development, product management, architecture, design. I was doing mock-ups. I was coding a ton. And I think that cross-functional experience, the variety of experiences that we can get, is so valuable as you grow your career. So that's my journey. I wound up at Omniture. We rebranded. We emerged as a leader. We wound up acquiring our biggest competitor. We went public in 2006, and Adobe acquired us in 2009. That was a whole nother opportunity set, which was great at a global level. And then I joined Domo and then took them public a couple years ago. So that's been my journey.
Is this working? Okay. I am so excited to be here. It is great to see all of your faces, and especially some of you men that are out there. That's awesome. So my journey is completely different as a small business owner. So I started my business 23 years ago when I was 25 years old. I had just left the University of Utah. I was an English major. And same thing, I didn't really know what my trajectory was, but I thought, I can open a store, why not, right? And my sister and I opened it. It was called Hip and Humble, but it was a furniture store. And if you've been into my store now, we do not sell any furniture. We are a gift store. We sell beautiful gifts, we sell shoes, we sell clothing, but I don't sell furniture anymore. Some of our challenges that we had as we grew this business was, number one, economic cycles. And these ladies have touched on that idea. But it's a very real thing when you're in the real world. Your parents have all gone through this, and you have no idea what we're talking about. But when you're in business, this is a very real thing. And people no longer open their wallets. And so you are trying to do business with no money. Which leads to the second thing, which was a very hard thing for us, especially as a women-owned business. And let me tell you, back in those days, in 1999, there was no such thing as a women-owned business. Those words did not exist. And finding capital for your business was very, very difficult. No bank was going to loan me money. So trying to find and access capital to grow my business was very hard. Another difficult time for our business was about 10 years ago. I bought my partner out. And this can be a very slippery slope for lots of companies. And you mentioned, being bought out. It's scary. It's scary for the employees. It's scary for the owners. What's going to happen? Can this owner do it as well as this one? Is the magic sauce the two of them together? What's going to happen to my job? And also, as partners, it was a very emotional thing. We are dividing money. We are dividing assets. We are, giving and taking fame. Like all these things your entire life, and it becomes very emotional. And how does that affect your company and what's being portrayed out in the community? Those were some of our really big challenges that we had Over the years, to live through economic cycles, I changed my business from being a furniture business to a gift store. And I've changed my business from being just a local, women, one-man show on the road to going national. And soon you're going to see hip and humbles everywhere, which is a little bit scary. But you have no idea what your trajectory is. And I agree with you that being open to new ideas, being willing to change, these things affect where you're going to head into your future.
All right, thank you all. Sheena, how much time, I'm just wondering how much time, trying to pace ourselves here. Yeah. Okay, we have 20 minutes, so we have, 7, 8 questions, so we do have to pace ourselves. So next question is about power. And so what's really interesting to me is that we have 3 very different career paths with some clear commonalities. So this question is, how did you navigate power structures early in your career, and how do you navigate or dismantle power structures now in your career?
I'll go ahead and start. When I started as a furniture company, the furniture world was a man's world, and these were men in 3-piece suits. And I was very female, and I was very young. So navigating that was extremely difficult. How I navigated it was I tried to dress the part, look the part, be the part. I pretended I had oodles of money, so I could hang with these guys, right? It was very ineffectual. 20 years later, now I'm entering this new airport retail world. And guess what? It's full of white men in 3-piece suits. And I'm not even exaggerating. So the difference, though, and how I attack power structures is by being 100% authentic. When we are authentic, we reclaim our power. We stop playing someone else's game, and we start playing our own game. So now when I go into meetings, I'm the CEO of my company, I ask to meet with the CEO. And I'm as authentic as I can get. I'm as transparent as I can get. And my best meetings, my best negotiations, my best deals that I have received are when I am 100% authentic, and I do not pretend to be anyone other than who I am, which at my core is a small business owner.
I love that. Because similarly, I was one of maybe 3 women in my computer science classes. I went to the school down in Provo, but it was hard, right? I just felt like I was different. I was behind. A lot of these guys had been coding all through high school, and I didn't. So I felt really like an imposter. So then when I started to work, I did the same thing. I was like, I'm just going to dress like them. I'm going to act like them. Maybe I'll fit in. And it didn't work because I'm not like them. And over time, I realized I have to be myself. First of all, it's exhausting to try and mask as someone else. And then secondly, I started to learn over time that's actually what the team needed. The team needs diversity. Diversity makes a team stronger, but that we just didn't hear about it. I didn't have anyone really articulating it. So I'm glad that I think we've made progress on that front. My world's a little bit different when it comes to the power structure because it's a huge corporation, right? So there's a big company, there's a lot of layers. And what I've learned over the years in those scenarios is to really try and understand what their definition of success looks like. So it's hard to navigate something if you don't really understand what the other person is trying to achieve. And if I could get down to what does success look like for them, then I could speak to that and really get alignment, because my role is really aligning a lot of different people across a lot of different functions to ship a product, because that's a team sport. That is not an individual sport. It's a huge team that has to, everything's got to work, even outside of product. You have marketing, sales. So really seeking to understand that and locking in on that. And then helping to, I had to learn as well how to communicate better and communicate more directly, right, and authentically with my voice to say, hey, here's how I think we can be successful together if we'll pull, resources and have great plans and so forth. But that's one way in which I think I've been able to make more sense of the power structure in a corporation.
So I think I'm just echoing some of the things that you all have said. Authenticity and being who you are is the most important part of dismantling a power structure. Also, very early in my career, especially in law school, you're told, dress this way, do this, you have to speak this way, don't wear pants, don't do this. And just ignoring all those things and being true to who you are is ultimately when you start becoming successful at a personal level, which in and of itself is powerful. So same thing, I spent probably the early part of my career checking all the boxes. I have this dress, this skirt, these things. And then just really just doing work and doing good work and being who I am. I have never had the benefit of being in a room of people that look like me in Utah or otherwise. So I can't be a white man. I don't know that experience. I do know what it's like to be a black woman in a male-dominated industry, or even at an executive level, you just don't see a lot of people of color. So that is what it is, but I also use that opportunity that I have right now to be a voice. There's only one other woman in the room with me when we're in executive team meetings, but there are definitely times where somebody has to say, hey, let's think about how this impacts our total workforce, or having side conversations like, hey, I know this is what you're thinking about doing. Let me give you some perspective on why that might not work or why that might isolate certain groups. And just having the voice to say that. And I think part of it is as your career develops, you get to know who you are and what the things that are important to you are. Early in my career, it was whatever it took, I'm going to do it. We also live in a world where you're supposed to pretend like you're not married, you don't have kids, like you don't have any other thing to do with your time other than to dedicate it to a legal career. That's been what I was taught. But when I applied to OC Tanner, interview number 1, I have a baby. I had, at the time, probably a 6-month-old son. I was exhausted. I had just come off of an international trip, and I said all of that at the beginning of the interview. This is the person you're getting. To this day, everyone at my company knows my children's names, their hobbies, because I don't hide that anymore. That is who you are getting. You're getting a mother, you're getting a wife, you're getting a lawyer. And hopefully I'm doing a great enough job at that last one that you don't care about the other two being in the way. And I think showing up like that, the women who I work with will come and say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that, or I'm so glad you did that. And coming off of the last few years, having me in the room to say, moms can't do that. Like, I know you want cameras on all the time, but if I have a 2-year-old standing behind me, that's not going to work. And having someone who can say that, and people don't think about it. I work with a lot of older men. They have grandchildren. They don't have anyone screaming down the hall. My son was riding a big wheel around my office during calls, and that made everyone who was in the same situation, male or female, because you have your younger male workers who are in the same position too, feel better. And just being myself has allowed other people to do the same.
Thank you. I'm going to skip to another question because I think it follows well after what the three of you just said. Thinking about leadership in the business world, I'm curious to know what leadership looks like to you and how you've taken on the mantle of leadership in your roles.
I'll just do a follow-on, a short one. I think, again, just being yourself, but also recognizing where people are. When I am a leader on a team, one thing that I like to do is to know what the leaders on my team want to accomplish. And I think you said something like this, what is their goal? And helping them get there. I had a conversation this morning that went like, I think you're doing a fantastic job. I always want to work with you. However, there's this opportunity that's coming up over here that I really want you to think about. Like, as much as I would cry if you left, I don't want to prevent you from being able to have another opportunity if that's something that you're interested in. Nope, don't answer, think about it. And just understanding what people need. And whether that person leaves my team or not, she knows that she can trust me to help develop her. And just really helping people find their voice, be empowered, think outside of their own boxes is the way that I try to lead.
And that notion of servant leadership, which is really, I think, powerful, that resonates, I'm sure, with a lot of you. It's something that I've adopted as well. I think that the goal, I was a reluctant leader. I actually didn't want to lead. I thought, like, I actually like to hang back, and I like to be supportive and do all the things. So it was a little accidental, but over time I've learned that there's just such power in figuring out how to enable others to be successful from a position of leadership, and you can do that. And so for me, that's a lot of what it is how do I enable look, my parents were my dad was super poor when he came to this country. He was 8, and so this notion of the American dream and like upward mobility and people being able to grow their careers and change lives and change the trajectory of their families, I've certainly experienced it, and it's meaningful to have the opportunity to do that across the board with teams. So really making sure that we're having an impact on the business, of course, really achieving success, and then the way we do it, right, is also enabling and empowering all the people on our teams. That's what leadership is for me.
Yeah, I would really echo what you two have said. Leadership to me, I always like to say, I need to bring people into my tent. And I feel like there is a space that as leaders we create, and whether that is a figurative space or a literal space, we create spaces where people can be together and we can make connection and we can talk about things. We might even argue about something, but we feel supported. And in that group, there's going to be new leaders that rise. And in that group, we are going to become better and stronger. And whether it's a community group, a feminist group, a business group, we are all becoming better and stronger together. And that's what leadership is being willing to bring people in to become better, to reach your potential. Yeah.
I really wish we had some men leaders up here to just hear the difference between, or if there are differences in responses after listening to that. So I'm going to continue in that vein and kind of thinking about women leaders. We occasionally have heard, I would like a woman president, for example, but just not that woman. And so, I think that women occasionally, frequently face a bit of a trade-off in terms of being likable and being competent. And so I'm curious to know if this is something that you face in your own careers, or if you observe this in those around you, and how you balance being likable with being competent.
I'll go ahead and start if that's okay. Okay. So I'm really straightforward, and I can be really kind of aggressive, and I'm super passionate, so I just get in there. And a lot of people find it, for lack of a better word, maybe offensive, because I just know what I want. And I have a lot of confidence in my knowledge and what I want to do with my business. And for a lot of years, I was a little bit ashamed of how forward I could be, and how no, yes, I hate that, and I was a little bit embarrassed, and I tried for a little bit to soften that. As I have matured and my business has matured, I've decided to let go of all of this noise that tells us what we should and shouldn't do, or how we should or shouldn't behave, or what we should be as women. I've tried to just let that all go. And I will tell you that the comment I get the most from people that I work with, regardless of what we're doing, what we're working on, what business setting is, they always say, I love working with you, Sheridan, because you know what you want. I'm not wishy-washy, I just go in. And again, that has fueled even more this confidence that I have to voice my opinion. I think as you will continue to grow is finding what your voice is and where you feel comfortable. And wherever that is, it will land with the right people in the right way, in the right environment. And if it's not working somewhere, it's just not your place. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be your place. There's going to be another place that is perfect for you.
It's a hard topic, I think, this likability versus competence question. And I think that a couple things come to mind. One, I do think there is an awareness of biases that we all need to become educated on, and we've gone through training at work, and it's something where we have to continually check ourselves, because I'll hear comments from, let's say, a manager who says, well, this individual they're a little aggressive, right? They're a little rough. And if I ask, okay, if they were male, would you actually be saying that? What about it is, right, maybe a mismatch in our expectation versus what the outcome is. So I think we have a ways to go, just all of us, and I'm learning every day too on maybe biases that I have. We all have them, so really understanding them and learning how to dismantle them and become much more open, I think is a big part of this. I would say the other thing for women who come in, maybe more junior staff members who are coming and saying, hey, I'm struggling with this, one of the questions I do have to ask them is, what is most important to you? Are you more concerned with being liked right now and everyone liking you? Or are you more concerned with the outcome? Or what is it really that, because I think, I'll say for myself at times, I've been nervous about it. Like, I've inflicted it on myself, and I've tried to change because I thought, this is what matters the most, and it actually didn't. What mattered most was like the outcome, right? Like, what are we trying to get done? So I think there's some self-learning that I've had to go on my journey. And then generally speaking, when that does come up, I do try and drive towards, but what's the outcome and what are we trying to get done? And if we're getting it done, then is the likability issue really a blocker? And there is toxic behavior, so I'm not excusing where that is happening, but I think sometimes we have to get into the discomfort of the nuances and really have the conversation.
So I have a different take on this. Men are never worried about being likable. They're always worried about being a leader, about being competent. And so I think that's the most important thing. Be competent. The likable part, you can't please everybody. And you shouldn't try, because you never will. You will fail every time. That said, I do think people should be kind. And that's a word that we don't use in business a lot. And be respectful. And it's interesting when you say, not that woman. Like, there is not a woman that I work with that I would not cheer for, elevate, promote. I am rah-rah for anyone who is competent. And so it goes back to that for me. As long as someone is competent, I'm happy to support you. I don't have to like you. You're not going to come to my Sunday dinner. But if you can get that document done and do it really well, you are my friend. So.
All right, that's an interesting set of perspectives on that. And I think, I guess, the recognition of biases is really important. That we can't always correct them, but the recognition means, hey, let's take a step back and does it matter if this woman is aggressive? Yeah, if they're competent, they're getting the job done, then they can go buy it. Okay, so I'm going to continue along this path and talking about luck. So the saying is, I'd rather be lucky than good. How much of a role does luck play in the business world and, in your own career? How much of a role do you play in generating your own luck?
I'll go first. I think I count myself to have been very lucky throughout my career. I've been fortunate to work with some amazing people, work for some amazing brands with incredible customers that I've learned for. I also think, though, that you do manufacture a lot of your luck. I think you put yourself in situations where you can say yes. I think you put yourself in situations where you can learn, where you have a growth mindset, and you can say, I'm here to learn. I'm here to understand what is this about, and to roll up my sleeves and to learn what competence looks like, right? And so I think being teachable, and there is a lot of hard work involved in it. I don't want to sugarcoat it, but doing that, I think, positions you to capitalize on luck.
So I don't believe in luck. I have a very, very strong sense of faith, and I do believe that there is some divine order to life. I do think that if you prepare yourself and you are competent and you know your craft, that you will get elevated. And I see that in other people who don't necessarily have the same faith, the same value in their faith as I do, but like I can look at that person and say, oh, I wish you could see what is happening to you because you worked really hard for this, and I know God did that for you because you did work so hard, and you did believe in it, and you did all these other things that you were supposed to do, so you kind of did things the right way. So that's where I think my luck is, just that I prepared myself. I'm faithful, and I believe things will happen, and there's probably no other explanation for things that have happened in my career, so.
I would also agree that I don't believe in luck. But at the same time, you could say that I'm lucky because I was born middle class, or you could say I was lucky because I was born white. But it's really what you do with your life and what you've been given in any sort of circumstance that propels you to, that next level or to wherever you're going. For me, there was 4 things that I really feel like have impacted my trajectory. And one of those is being willing to change. I started out as a furniture company, but I totally switched to being a gift store. That being willing to change is a big one. And I think being open to new ideas. I didn't even know that airport retail existed, right? And then just being open to that idea. I was like, this is interesting. I'm just gonna walk down this path and see what happens, right? I think that we also have to be very brave every day. Every day that you go to work, be brave. And then the other thing is listen to your heart. What does your heart say? Does it say yes? Does it say no? Does it say do this, do that? And those are the things that have really impacted where I have ended up in my life.
All right. So the question we always ask women, what about personal life, work-life balance? Do you have thoughts on that, challenges, any advice? Whatever you might have to say on that question we always hear.
So I promise you I'm not a contrarian, but I promise I really do get along well with a lot of people, but there's no balance, right? Especially for women, and more for men. Men who are extremely involved in their family lives, in their greater family lives, having aging parents, be it young children, whatever it is. Balance is a difficult notion. I think that you can have really good periods in facets of your life. You can have really, really great career moments, and sometimes in those moments, no one in your home will care about it. They're like, well, where were you? I need you to do this or that, or you forgot to pick this up. And you can have really, really great family moments that you will have a lot of work to do sitting on your desk that's not getting done. And just trying to figure out how to manage those is just, that has been my career, and it has led me to great things. I left a company because I was traveling a lot, and I wanted to be local and spend time with my daughter and not have these exchanges with my nanny where my heart's beating that my flight's late and I might not get that last seat that's left on the wait list. And I didn't want to live like that. And for me, it happened to work out well, but I was willing for it not to work out as well. I was willing to take a step back to spend more time. And so I think it's just making those decisions. But you said something important, like listen to your heart. When you are driving down a road in a town that you don't live in crying because you want to be with your child, you are in the wrong place. And so like that helps you make decisions really quickly. And that sense of balance for me is really a sense of peace. Am I at the right place? Am I focused on the right thing? And reassessing that all of the time. Like, something doesn't feel right. Well, it's because I'm not doing what I should be doing right now.
Yeah, I think balance is a hard word because we think of like equal, right? And I do think that it's not realistic for most of us. I think that assessing, to me the question more is what's most important to you right now? What do you want your day to look like? Because that's the one thing that you get to choose. We all get 24 hours. So where do you want the 24 hours to be spent? Relative to your goals, relative to what's important, where you are right now, I agree you've got to constantly reassess because it's going to change over time. But if we think about it instead as, I have 24 hours, where's my ideal allocation? Then I think you can achieve those goals. You can say right now, this is more important to me, and this is where I'm going to put my time. The other thing too is, to be brutally honest, I also outsource and delegate things that are not mission critical for me to do. It's okay to ask for help if you're juggling a lot of this stuff. The idea that one woman can do all the things is a myth, and we don't. We get help. And whether it's family, whether it's hired help, I think you really have to, again, if you say, well, this is where I want my time spent on my day, then you're gonna outsource, you're gonna delegate, you're gonna move out the things. Sometimes I get home to the kids and I say, I did not make dinner. I made dinner happen. That was success. And we just have to be honest with them about it, right? And say, this is where we are right now. And they're okay too. But I think sometimes recognizing I can't do all the things my mom did. She had a different life. And redefining that for each of you is just an exhilarating opportunity because you get to choose. You get to pick.
Yeah, I totally agree as far as reassessing. Your life is constantly changing, and your needs and your wants are constantly changing at the same time. A quick story, we all know that COVID happened, and from March 20 to June 21, I worked my ass off. I was so scared, and we all know, like, small business. I had just opened in the airport. Travel was not happening. I mean, I was in panic mode, and I was working nonstop all day, every day. So when finally June of 21 happened, and my business is flourishing, the airport's going amazing, and I could not get off that treadmill. I could not get off and stop working. And I was in a really bad place. I actually had to call a professional. So I hired a professional coach to actually help me not work because I could not stop. What I have really learned over the past year working with her is that when I feel that imbalance in my life, you know, because sometimes you are going to spend more time working, sometimes you are going to spend more time at home, but when I feel imbalanced is really time to reassess or check in. And the two questions I ask myself is, one, really what's on my list? You know, are these things due today, tomorrow, next week, 6 months from now? What's mission critical? And then number two, what am I feeling inside? am I actually stressed about work and that's why I'm working so much? Or am I actually feeling vulnerable because I'm in a nasty fight with a girlfriend or something? You know, like, what is it? And usually I have found that I work really hard when I'm emotionally not right. And so taking that time to say, I need to work emotionally on me. You know, whether that's taking a little bit of time off, taking some time to go talk to this girlfriend over coffee, whatever it is to get emotionally right, that is what helps me keep more in balance than anything.
Thank you, and I really love the didn't make dinner, I made dinner happen line. I am going to be using that. So I think that it's probably a good time for us to go to questions from the audience, because Sheena's given me looks from over there.
Room full of incredible people. I know you have questions for these incredible women, so who's got a thought you want to share? I'll bring a mic to you. Here we go. And please tell us your name.
Hello, my name's Giselle Arias, and I have a question for you. So you mentioned you entered product management and you felt like you were behind, and especially compared to your other peers, that's exactly where I'm at right now. I want to go into software engineering, and I didn't realize this until like last semester. And so now entering the senior year, it's like, oh shoot, what do I do? Like, I have projects, but you still need the experience. In product development, what are some tips that you'd have in terms of like getting a job in that field?
In product development and software engineering?
Yes.
First of all, it's an excellent field. I recommend it to everyone. Legitimately, because I think there's so much flexibility. The comp is amazing, like I'm sure you guys all know. Hopefully your counselors are all telling you about what you can. I think something we don't do as well as we should probably is just talk bluntly about finances and that. But what I would say is, if you think you have a passion for it, go for it. Take as many classes as you can, right? And then start interning as soon as you can. Because the on-the-job experience, real world, supplemented with understanding the theory of computer science and just product development is really gonna propel you that combo. And you're going to have no shortage of job opportunities, would be what I say. We cannot hire developers fast enough. We can't hire product managers fast enough, designers, so that's why we're going globally, because we can't get enough talent. So and we can talk more afterwards if you want.
Can I piggyback on that?
Yeah.
So we hire a lot of software engineers. We cannot, the Valley is so competitive, we can't compete either. We're hiring people on the other side of the world. Ask for an internship. If you don't feel like you're ready to the level that you want to be, reach out to some of the local companies and intern. They will hire you to do that because there's such a gap in where we need to be from an employment perspective right now.
100%. Work and career services. I don't know if you've been talking to our business career services, but they will be able to help with all of that. It's a little plug.
Hi, my name is Chris Bosman. I just have a question about diversity in your workplaces, and what kind of things do you do to foster a more inclusive environment, from hiring to retention to making it a friendly place for a more diverse workplace? That question's for anyone.
I think this is a really, really difficult question. Well, it's not a difficult question, it's an easy question, but it's a difficult thing we're experiencing, especially in Utah, because there is not enough diversity. And so for me, when I have, 50 employees, and we're at 1% diversity in Utah, like that's like not even a full person. And so it's very hard to find that. We are on a mission trying to recruit people that have diversity, because we want to show that in our shops. We want to. It's been a little easier out at the airport. Almost everyone is, not white and not from Utah. And so that's helpful, but on our street stores, it looks very, very, very different. The one thing, though, that I can do is in our marketing, we try to be really inclusive with our models that we use. So we try to get as much diversity out there as we can, and that's with age, and it's with color. And that is where we really try to show our support and our inclusivity when it's so difficult to hire that in Utah. I mean, that's just something that I feel, but.
So I actually work for a very diverse company. 40% of OC Tanner employees speak another language, and something like 25% were not born in the US. That said, that is largely encompassed in our manufacturing and client success groups. So one of the challenges is how do we take that population where we want those people to stay with the company, how do we get them into management? So we do have developmental programs. You are able to switch departments over a period of time and try new opportunities. And the goal is really just to keep people growing and keep them in the company. For gender diversity, we've done a great job. Vice presidents and above, we're about 40% women. But again, people of color, it's a little bit more challenging, but really just taking the people who we have who are great workers and developing them.
Great. Thank you so much. Can we give these wonderful women a round of applause? So, thank you so much for sharing your insights. I think this is so helpful for all of us. If we're students, if we're professionals, I've learned a heck of a lot today. So thank you so much for being willing to share your experiences. And for everyone in the audience, food is here, so you can go get some food. If you're a business scholar and need passport points, come see me and I'll give you a code. So, and it sounds like if you want to hurry and grab somebody really quick on their way out, I bet they will talk to you for just a moment. So if you have another question we didn't get to, please do feel free to do that. And thank you again for being here. And thank you so much for taking the time to share your stories.